Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a really fun, sort of simple card. Simple in theory, but I do more than one technique on it, and I use like 5 different types of inks. It'll all make sense when I get to it. So everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps the lights on, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's jump into making this card. So I'm using the Firework Friends stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. And I had this idea in my head because one, I love creating like firework type cards, but so often the idea in theory is great, but it's like you want these like bright bursts of color, but on a very, very dark background. And this is one way to do it. I've shown other ways in the past with other sets in other videos. So I've got a panel of smooth white cardstock, and I use my anti-static powder tool on it. And then I'd put the firework images onto just acrylic blocks, and I'm stamping them along the top of this panel with Distress Oxide ink. Oxide inks have pigments in them. They take a little longer to dry, so they sit on top of the cardstock more. They take longer to dry. So I can do all of my stamping at once, and then I'm going to coat all of this with clear embossing powder. You could probably do this with any sort of pigment ink, anything slow drying. You could do this with other inks as well. You either would have to move a lot quicker because, as soon as the ink is dry, the embossing powder is not going to cling to it very well. Or there have been like ways in the past, and that's why I didn't do it because, again, it's just time consuming, is using a stamp positioner to stamp it in the ink color of choice, and then clean the stamp and stamp right over it with clear embossing ink. That is another option. If you don't have oxides or pigment inks but want to look like this, you could do it that way. It would take longer, but it does work. So I coated it all with clear embossing powder, melted it with my heat tool, and even just like this, it looks really cute. I like when random ideas in my head like just work and come to fruition. So I've got these fireworks, and right now just on a white background. We want to make this look like a night sky. So I'm going to use some Post-it tape just to mask off the bottom portion of this panel. And now I'm going to start blending inks. And this is the second type of ink I'm using. I'm using Simon Says Stamp's Pawsitively saturated inks. And I'm starting with my lightest shade, which is SEAFOAM. This is kind of the horizon line. So I'm blending that from just the edge of the Post-it tape upwards. Then I'm going in with Violet, and I'm going to start blending that in. And I'm going to get progressively like darker so that these fireworks can like pop on the dark background. And because they've been heat embossed with the clear embossing powder, that clear embossing powder, now that it's melted, is going to resist anything else that I put on top of it. So now I'm going in with Night, which is just a really deep, navy blue shade, and covering most of this panel with this. I'm going to blend this down into the purple and even like kind of drag it down into that like SEAFOAM shade. And if you'd want, you could also add like black, like right at the very top. I thought about that afterwards and I was like, that would work too. But I do like just how this looks as is. But black could really like deepen that very top like portion if you wanted to. So I'm going to blend that on, and then I'm going to take my microfiber cloth and buff this over the little fireworks there. And that's going to remove any ink that's sitting on top of that embossing powder. And there you go. We've got this little night sky with all these bright firework images. Love it. Love it. So once I had that blended, I moved the Post-it tape to cover like the sky portion. And now I'm just blending Simon's Field Pawsitively saturated ink. So we've got the ground. So I'm going to blend that on there. Once I've got this in place, I can remove the Post-it tape, and then I'm going to put this panel into my Misty so that I can stamp the silhouette tree image from the stamp set. So that was why I masked it off, and it kind of held up the stamp to kind of figure out where I was going to place this. So once I had that like all inked blended, now I'm going to figure out where I want this stamp to go, and I just kind of want it to like go right up kind of against where the two shades of ink meet. And then this I'm going to ink up with another type of ink. I'm going to use my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink for this, because this will give me a good, solid, crisp black, stamping. So stamped it, and then I'll ink it up even though I pretty much got like almost perfect stamping the first time. Also love when that happens, but inked it up a second time, stamped it again, just because I could. And then this I did let dry, and then I even off camera used my heat tool just to fully like dry it, because like stamping such a large solid image like that with the oil-based ink, it takes a little while. So yet another type of ink. I'm stamping just a couple. There's several little critters in the set, and they're all adorable. Love it. I chose a few. I'm going to stamp these also onto just the smooth white cardstock, but this time I'm inking these up and stamping them with the Rainbow Splash black ink. This is the new like replacement for Simon's Intense Black ink, which I used for years. Years and years and years. And then they discontinued it somewhat recently. I'm not exactly sure when. And I was not happy at first, because I was like, well, what am I going to do? That was my go-to ink for alcohol marker coloring. The Rainbow Splash line is owned by Simon Says Stamp. It's our like more affordable line. And this black ink works great. Works exactly the same as Simon's Intense Black ink. So if you were curious, this is what I've been using now, and I have had zero issues with it. Love it. So I'd stamp my critters with that, and then I'm doing very, very simple Copic coloring, just 2 color blends. Nothing too crazy. Keeping it simple, and they're just cute. They're just adorable. And for me, I go in with my darkest shade first and then blend that out with the lighter shade. That's just like a convenience sort of a thing. And then add a little tiny bit of pink to their ears. And yeah. And then this little trash panda. That's what I call raccoons, because that's what they are. They're trash pandas, and they're adorable, and I love them. I don't know why. So for him, I used the warm grays. You could use any alcohol markers. I'm not doing anything super crazy or specific here. This is just very, very simple alcohol marker coloring. So worked my way through and colored in his body, and then just went with a couple darker shades of the warm grays for his little stripes and the little mask around his eyes. And then same thing, I'll use my R20 as the inner portion of the ears, add a little blush, and then a little bit of red to the inside of his mouth. And again, he's just adorable. We just love him. So I've added that. And then for my rabbit, I kept him very just simple, very simple as well. Just very light shades to color him in. And then same thing, added a little bit of the R20 to his little ears and his little nose, gave him a little pink nose. And then that R24 for his little tongue. And then I pulled in a brighter blue for the little like sparkler he's holding. And then as my final bit, I use my Jelly Roll 10 gel pen to add little white highlights. And then I fussy cut these. I don't have the coordinating die set. There is a coordinating die set for this. So if I'd had it, I would have used it. But this didn't take me very long. So I just quickly fussy cut these guys in the same way as if I had the dies, which I'm going to show another little trick here that I've shown in past videos here and there. I don't do this very often, but I decided to do it this time. So first off, I trimmed off my background panel. I trimmed it down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I took a 1/4 inch off each side. And then I took more markers and I'm coloring the white outline around these images. Again, I don't do this very often. I don't mind the white outline around my die cuts. It just depends on my mood, what I'm creating, whatever. This time I decided to color it in. So this can make things look a little more seamless. It does depend on your background, things like this. Usually I would avoid this because it's like I pulled out like multiple colors just to make it like extra seamless, but it works and it just gives, I don't know, a bit more of a finished look, I guess. So I kind of marked like where, the grass was. So I used a green marker for that. I used a black marker for the areas that kind of overlap the tree line. And then I used kind of an aqua shade for the little bits that are exposed there right at the horizon line, and then a blue for those spots. This was very quick and easy. It took just like a couple minutes, and yeah, for those that really don't like those white outlines, this is a way to, color those areas, and while still enabling, I can pop, like I'm popping these guys up with little thin foam squares to give them a bit of dimension. So then it was just a matter of kind of adhering them where they needed to be so that the outlines sort of line up with how I colored them. So that's another reason why I don't do this very often. But for this card, it was like, this all just works, So got them lined up and popped into place with some little foam squares, and then fixed a couple spots that I had kind of missed. And then that was good to go. So once I've got all of that colored in, I'm going to do my card base. So my card base is a top folding A2 white note card, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And on the inside, I'm going to add that little bunny with the little sparkler there, and one of the sentiments from the set. And then I also decided to stamp a couple more of the fireworks on the inside as well, just because I couldn't resist. So I'm stamping them with the same like Oxide ink, so mustard seed, wilted violet, and candied apple. So I'm going to stamp those first, and then I'm going to ink up and stamp the sentiment with that Nocturne ink. And then once I've got the sentiment lined up, I'm going to stamp that, and then I can adhere my little character, kind of standing in front of the fireworks, and that's going to finish the inside of the card, which, as per usual, this could be a very clean and simple card front. I always say how I don't really do clean and simple very often, but a lot of the times the insides of my cards could be clean and simple card fronts, So I'm going to adhere that little character just like so, and that finishes off the inside of the card. So once that's done, off camera I had white heat embossed another sentiment onto black cardstock. That's where I used another ink. I used my clear embossing ink for that. And I'd stamped the sentiment, used white embossing powder, melted it, and then used Simon's sentiment label dies to die cut it, and then trimmed off the ends. So I've got my sentiment. I'm going to put some Big Mama foam tape on the back of my background panel, just to pop this up and give it just a little bit of dimension. So once I've got that in place, I can remove the backing, put this onto my card base, and then the sentiment I'm going to adhere with just some thin foam squares. And then as a final little bit of embellishment, and just to bring in the bling, I'm going to use some Prism Pawsitively Dazzling gems, and I'm going to stick them like in the centers of all these little fireworks, and then just a few little random ones too, which on camera, these look just very flat, like just filming down like this. But I'll tilt this in the light at the end of the video, and you can kind of see like they just, reflect the light, and I think they're kind of perfect for little fireworks. So once I was happy with the placement, I just picked these up with my little embellishment wand, and then adhere them into place with little dabs of glue, and that's going to finish off this card. So with the sentiment on the front and on the inside, I kind of left this sort of open-ended. This could be an any occasion card. Like it could be a birthday card, a congratulations card, thinking of you, anything really. Oh, and then I added just a little bit more of the white gel pen highlights to those silhouette trees just to give them that little extra something. And then the card was complete. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I'll have links to all of the things in the description box below the video. So you can just expand the description box if you click on the little ellipses and where it says more. It'll expand the description box. There'll be a supply list, link to my blog post, etc. You can check that all out below if you are interested. As always, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting, letting the robot overlords know that you like what you see, and subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!